back to Citi Field for their home opener with two more wins in their pocket after they took 2 of 3 from the Miami Marlins. This is episode number 64 of the Queen's Connection, a production of Patton Sports Creative. I am your host, Andrew Patton, joined by the co-host, Corne Hogeveen. And Corne, this was a interesting series, I think would be the right way to describe these last 3 games in Miami.
Yeah, interesting is the right word, yes. Especially yesterday, obviously. Crazy game. I think the Mets had no business winning that game until the Pete Alonso home run. And then still they didn't. I mean, even in the 11th inning when they scored 2 runs, they could have scored more, maybe should have scored more. So that was a little bit of the story of the game. But in the end, it's a win in the books. And that's all that matters.
Yeah, definitely a nice come from behind win for the Mets yesterday to cap it off after the first game of the series. They had the offensive explosion. Looked like maybe the offense was on going on the right path, and then the next night maybe they had some hard luck against Sandy Alcantara, and then obviously they cap it off with some late inning runs to take 2 of 3 from Miami. So when you look at this series overall, obviously 2 of 3 is great. That's what you need to do. You need to win series. You're back to 500, which is obviously very nice, even though it's early in the season. 3-3 sounds a lot better than 2-4 going into your home opener. What was your biggest takeaway from these last 3 games?
Honestly, it's something that maybe isn't great. Mostly, I think I'm pretty looking at the positives, but I thought the defense wasn't up to par this series. I think obviously Lindor made those 2 errors that cost Senga a couple of runs, and yesterday Vientos mostly, but even the play Torrance made was a bad throw by Beatty. So yesterday the infield defense, especially if you play with Clay Holmes, who gets his fair share of ground balls. It's very important that you play solid defense. It's early in the season, but the defense need to be better in the following series.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. Shocker. So I'll go in a little bit of a different direction here. I'm going to go with the starting pitching from the series, and particularly we'll go with Kodai Senga because obviously he's a little bit of an X factor in this Mets rotation. Did get the loss, but those 2 runs that Miami scored, to regain the lead after the Mets had tied the game, were more of a product of the Lindor error that was costly. Now, obviously, Kodai Senga said afterwards, if I was doing my job, those errors wouldn't be a big deal. And obviously, you like to hear that from your starting pitcher. Um, but it looked like Kodai took maybe a little bit of time to settle into this game. Obviously, the first 2 batters got on, and just like that, the Marlins had a 2-0 lead. But finishes, pretty strong. You figure those are the first 2 batters of the game get those 2 hits. He only gave up 1 more hit the rest of the game. Did have a walk, but he had 8 strikeouts in this 5 innings of work. So I know on the broadcast, I think Gary Cohen said Senga was okay. I think he was a little bit better than okay personally. I think um, are there still some things to maybe, I don't want to say work on. I don't know if that's the right word, but are there things that maybe you'd like to see a little bit better, maybe a little bit better uh, control at time with the fastball or something like that? Sure. But the ghost fork was really good in this game, I thought. So I think that's a nice first step for Kodai Senga's 2025 season.
Yeah, I was very pleased with what I saw. And yes, you can look at the numbers, and the broadcast and fans tend to do that. But I think overall, the eye test, he definitely passed, in my opinion. Like you said, the splitter, the ghost fork was very good. Got a lot of whiffs on that. He had tremendous command on that pitch because um, the Marlins weren't able to really lay it off, and eventually he just kept throwing it in that part, diving out of the zone. And then when they started to lay off, he threw some splitters for strikes. So I thought that was that his command on that pitch was really good and impressive to me. Um, like I do like what he said that he should have executed better. I think he, like you said, he allowed just one hit after that home run in the first inning. But that hit was that two-run double by Paulie, which obviously was a big moment, a big hit. So in the end, he didn't execute when it mattered most. He didn't start out good. I think it were two fastballs that were got hit early on. So I did like the adjustment he made to maybe go with less fastballs and go with more cutters, sliders, sweepers, and obviously the ghost fork. So overall, I think he was really good. Honestly, he looked really good. Like you said, he got 8 strikeouts in 5 innings, if I remember correctly. So those are a lot of strikeouts, and it maybe was a little bit bad luck, maybe not the best execution on the hitters that really mattered in this game, but okay to me. Like I agree with you that that was a little bit too light. And if the Mets played a little bit better defense, mostly Lindor in this game, and scored a little bit more runs, then it wouldn't be a non-story as well.
Yeah, I think like we talked about Kodai making the adjustments, and it'll be interesting to see if he continues those adjustments because his next start out it will likely be against the Miami Marlins in Queens this time. So, are the Marlins hitters going to be able to look at the video and say, all right, the ghost fork when it comes out, if it's this release point or whatever, lay off of it or something like that. So it'll be interesting to see, what adjustments Miami makes against Senga, assuming that Senga does start against the Marlins at Citi Field, and if Senga makes any adjustments, I would doubt that Senga would make any pre-game adjustments. It'd probably be more in-game adjustments and whatnot. Because I think what they threw out there the other day was a good formula. And like you said, the defense just kind of let him down and proved to be costly and cost the Mets the ball game. But let's talk about my boy David Peterson as well. His first outing, 6 hits, 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, 5 hits allowed, 2 earned runs, and 3 walks. Pretty much what we saw from David Peterson down the stretch last year, I'd say. He carried that over at least into the first start of 2025.
Yeah, but the nine strikeouts are a little bit different. He wasn't necessarily a big strikeout guy last year, so that was great to see. Um, and I think they alluded it on the broadcast, and Peterson said it himself that his backfoot slider was kind of back. It was a pitch that he lost a little bit last year, and was back, and that accounted to that 9 strikeouts. Obviously, did have at time had some command issues, but overall, you definitely take that out of your first start, him striking out 9 and and especially with, I think even allowing those 2 runs. I think one came after the Mets scored a lot of runs, and he challenged the hitter who hit it out of the ballpark. I can't remember who it was, but um, you don't care about that. That's what you have to do with a big lead. Challenge the hitter if he hits it out, fine, and he did. So it's not that that was something bad by Peterson. So the runs did help. So yeah, overall, great start. Good pick by you. It's not a surprising pick, but a good pick.
I do want to talk about the defense a little bit more, and if there's any long term concern. But I think we'd be doing a disservice for two guys if we didn't mention them. One, Hayden Sanger getting his first major league start, picking up his first major league hit, was a double into the gap, was a well struck ball. So congratulations to Hayden Sanger, and I know Clay Holmes was very complimentary of him in his post game press conference. And then the other guy, Huascar Brazoban, who picked up his first major league save. He's now pitched in 3 games so far this season, 5 innings, just 2 hits allowed, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. He has been, I mean, 6 games into the season so far, but he has been a really solid weapon out of that bullpen. And they talked about on the broadcast a little bit, a guy who traditionally likes his changeup, but it looks like he's throwing his fastball and sinker a little bit more so far in these first 3 outings. And it's paying off for him. So I think we'd be doing him a disservice if we did not give him a shout out on our episode today.
Yeah, both guys. Hayden had a good start behind the plate. Is a good receiver, and he also got his first major league hit. So, uh, like you said, I think we alluded on this podcast pretty early that we liked Hayden Sanger to be part of the roster. He had definitely has earned his spot, obviously mostly because of his defense, but that's what I like about a backup. And then he also gets a double. Nice hitting there and going the opposite field on the double. And Brazoban, I like Brazoban. I like I love the trade when we got Huascar last year. I said it was one of the better trades we had. Unfortunately, last year the command wasn't there when he was with the Mets, but the guy um, has a tremendous ability to not allow hard hit contact, and so far so good. He throws strikes. So if his command is better than it was last year when he came to the Mets, so it's going to be a huge asset for us if he can keep the command up. And I'm very happy that so far he's getting not only length, he's giving us length, but yesterday he also got us huge out, which I honestly doubt um, Danny Young would be have been able to do.
Can I just say it's about 7 a.m. here in no my hometown, and we are getting thunder and lightning, and it's April 3rd. That's just crazy to me. And we were getting snow like last weekend. I don't know, crazy. Because there's like this big, burst of thunder while you were talking. And it scared the crap out of me.
I,
But
I heard it and I saw it in your face.
but no, Brazaban's been great, and no, you kind of alluded to it there. Danny Young, his two outings in this series against the Marlins were shaky, would be the word to describe it. And Young is a guy who's out of options. Brazoban is a guy who has options. Max Kranick, I believe, has options too. But it makes it interesting if, when Dednell Nunez, they feel is ready to come back up to the major leagues, um, are they going to really want to sacrifice a guy like Brazoban or Kranick who can give them multiple innings out of the bullpen, or to keep Danny Young up? Or if Danny Young's struggling, they're going to make the that call. I mean, obviously we're kind of looking ahead, to say the least, but it's something that it's going to be a discussion that comes up when they feel Nunez is ready to be part of the bullpen.
Right now, I think the Mets in there. I actually two things. I think Danny Young is there because he's out of option. But one, I, but he's also a lefty, which obviously always helps. But I would say that if you look at, for example, Jose Buto's career number, he pitches really well against lefties. So not necessarily a believer in needing that second lefty in this bullpen. I think we have a lot of very good arms that can pitch to both sides. So to me, right now, I think if Daniel Nunez comes back, um, I think Danny Young is the guy that should be gone. I think Brazoban and Krennic both, not only spring but early on this season, have shown uh, their value for this bullpen. And something that Danny Young doesn't really provide is those multiple innings, like you said. But this also shows how Danny Young is used so far in this series. It is, when he's kind of, or we are behind, or he's kind of the last guy that you could have gone with. I think Brazoban, maybe they wanted to stay away from Brazoban in that last inning because he has worked his fair share of innings already. But eventually, Jenny Young couldn't get the job done, so they got Brazoban up and in. So for me, if Daniel Nunez would have come back right now, for me, it's clear that it should be Danny Young.
No, I agree. I think Young had that first good outing this season, but these last two, command hasn't been there. And it was getting pretty dicey there with a Conine when he was up in the 11th inning, and the Marlins had already cut the deficit to one, and He had just walked Stowers, I believe, the batter before, so the winning or the tying run was on second, winning run on first. It was getting kind of dicey. Did get the big strikeout, but Mendoza said that's enough, and they went to Brazoban, and obviously he was able to shut the door. But let's talk about the defense here for the Mets. Um, Obviously, the two errors from Lindor in this series. The bad throw from Vientos on the play at the plate, the not great throw from Brett Beatty that Torrens bailed him out on. Tyrone Taylor getting confused, I guess, maybe. I don't know if the ball was just playing tricks on him because they did have the roof open, the windows open in Miami, so they were getting a breeze in there. So I don't know if that had any effect on it. Yeah, you can even go back to the Houston series with the Acuna error that cost the Mets the run. Um, what's your level of concern, like long term, with the defense? Do you think this is just maybe like some early season stuff? They're just working out the kinks, or do you think like um, this could be a lingering issue for the 2025 Mets?
I mean, if you look at the players who are on the field, I think it's clear that those guys probably, at least most of the guys we have talked about, probably won't have a bad uh, season defensively. Tyrone Taylor is a good defender. Acuna is a good defender. I think Beatty overall has looked really good. Besides maybe the throw, I think the rest, he made all the plays and he made the plays look easy and he actually shows a lot of range. Even if you look at the plays that didn't eventually became outs. You have that play where he barehanded the ball against Xavier Edwards early in the game yesterday, where he did everything he could. He made a really good play, but was just too late against a very speedy hitter. So the one guy where we know that the defense isn't great is Mark Vientos, out of those names. And Mark just is lost on both sides right now. So let's hope that when the offense gets going a little bit more, his defense will be slightly better as well, because yesterday was a crazy bad defensive game for Mark Vientos. So, yeah, that's the only one I'm truly concerned about in terms of defense for the Mets.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We know Vientos's track record is not a stellar defender. Maybe he was a little bit better than people thought he was going to be last year, but still overall, I don't think he's winning any Gold Gloves in his career. But I think we kind of knew that going in. I think that was what we knew. So you kind of have to uh, I don't want to say be a little lenient. That's not the right way, but maybe the expectations for some people have to be changed uh, with Mark Vantos and his defense, and obviously Brett Beatty. He's playing a new position. I know he switched there last year, or got some reps there last year. Now he's playing more full time second base. First real big chance, I guess, in a infield in situation like that for him at the major league level. And if he made a good throw, then it wouldn't have been close. But obviously, he threw it more up the first base line rather than throwing it down third base like Lindor did later in the game. Yeah, I guess uh, some things you'd like to see improved. I think for some guys, like you mentioned, it will get improved. For other guys, this is just kind of who they are, and you almost kind of have to just live with it. Before we start talking about the Blue Jays in the first series at Citi Field, let's talk about Pete. Pete had a really good series in Miami. Obviously, the grand slam. He hit the three-run homer to tie the game in the series finale. His OPS is over 1,000 now, if I'm remembering correctly. So after a sluggish series against the Houston Astros, Pete Alonso was slugging against the Miami Marlins.
Yeah, he loves that ballpark, so it's not a big shock that he's done well there. But he was huge. He was clutch. I mean, the last year we didn't see that from Pete Alonso, or we didn't see it a lot from Pete Alonso. So it's good to see that um, he had a very, very important three-run homer. So it's, yeah, I mean, he hit the ball hard all over the park yesterday. It was like four batted balls that were over 130 miles an hour. So great to see. Great for Juan Soto. as well. Having that protection with a good beat, and I also take kudos to Pete because he is laying off that slider down and away a lot better in big spots right now. He had a great at bat before that home run where he fouled off some tough pitches, but also uh, you know didn't swing on a couple of pitches that were close. So very impressed by his approach right now. And if he's able to keep that going, I think we get a big year from Pete Alonso in a walk year. Probably is a walk year. So far so good. It was a good series. I mean the Houston series. You also have to say that they have a good pitching staff. So that the hitters didn't have a good series there is somewhat uh, understandable. But Pete did his thing in Miami against um, a lesser pitching staff. So great to see out of Pete.
I should also, since you are the Clay Holmes man, I should ask you about his outing, what you thought. Once again, didn't get 5 innings, but his pitch mix was a little bit more diverse this outing compared to his last one. What do you think about Clay?
I thought he threw the ball really well. Also, another outing, same with Senga, where the defense trailed him a little bit. I think Vientos made a couple of plays there where I think one where he should have gone, where he got out at home and maybe should have been able to um, get a double play. So defense betrayed him a little bit, which always hurts for a ground ball pitcher. But overall, I thought he threw the ball really well. Threw a sinker less, which wasn't a great pitch in his previous outing. He mixed it up really well. I got some swings on the changeup, and I think he limited damage really well. I think Clay Holmes uh, had some situation where it could be way worse, uh, mostly because of the defense. I think those 2 runs um, should have, I don't think if I don't remember if there were both runs that could have been, but one at least one was unearned. So there was one run there where um, he should have been out of the inning, and eventually he settled down. He battled, and he got the job done. And eventually, it didn't get the 5 innings, but the last it was also a soft infield hit, which is tough if you face the Marlins because they have a lot of fast hitters. So a little bit unlucky, but overall, I think he threw the ball really well. So better start for him if you ask me out of Clay Holmes.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Clay, like I said, with being a little bit more diverse with his pitches, I think that helped him out in this outing. And they did make the point that the Marlins had more left-handed batters in this lineup compared to the Astros, so that probably was able to open up the repertoire a little bit. But a better outing for Clay Holmes, I would definitely say.
Something I said last week, people. I said maybe it didn't work or help him that he only faced a lineup with mostly right-handed pitching, a bit right-handed hitting. It's also early for me. Maybe it's afternoon, but I just woke up after a night shift, so not on my A game in terms of talking today. But that was a great point I made last week.
Yes, yeah, we'll give that to you for sure. Um, So before I guess I almost skipped over this. I couldn't believe I almost skipped over it. So before we get to the Blue Jays and Mets, there have been a couple games in Syracuse the last couple days. Is there anything noteworthy in the Corne minor league minute that is worth sharing?
There always is, Henry. You can always say something about the games. Yes, just 2 games. Uh, Syracuse went 1-1. They are now 2-2, or 2-3, one or the other. Uh, I think it's 2-2. I'm pretty sure it's 2-2. Syracuse. So Brandon Waddell made his organizational debut after a successful KBO time. He allowed 2 runs over 3 and a third innings of work, but he allowed 8 hits. So that's a lot of base runners and a walk in their loss on Tuesday. And But some better news in the win, as Dominic Hamill went 5 scoreless innings. He allowed just 2 hits with no walks, which is very good to see from Dominic Hamill with 3 strikeouts in a 4-1 win. Anthony Gose also went 2 scoreless innings in the win. And Meneses, who has been good in a, I would say, somewhat boring AAA lineup in terms of prospects, but he doubled twice, driving in 2 for the win. Dominic Hamill and Blake Tidwell both off to a good start after a terrible AAA season last year. To me, that's the main story so far for the Syracuse Mets.
There you go. And then we also saw that the other minor league teams, Binghamton, Brooklyn, St. Lucie, their rosters have been released, so you can go to their social media or to their team websites and check those out for some interesting names that are will be playing for them at least to begin the season. And then I did check, and Syracuse is 2-2, so you were correct.
Luckily.
Well, we shift from the minor leagues to the big leagues, and the Mets' home opener is Friday, April 4th against the Toronto Blue Jays. That is a 3:10 first pitch. It's going to be Tyler McGill taking the mound for the New York Mets. He'll be going up against Kevin Gausman. And then Saturday night, 7:10, Griffin Canning will make his second start for the Mets. He's going to be going up against former Met Chris Bassett. And the series finale is Sunday at 1:40. It's going to be David Peterson taking the mound for the Mets against Bowden Francis for the Blue Jays. And yes, remember how Bowden Francis pitched the last time he faced the New York Mets? He was pretty good. Well, until the ninth inning when Lindor got him. But that is your pitching matchups for this 3-game series at Citi Field. And they were talking about on the broadcast yesterday, both on the radio and the TV. They are encouraging people to take mass transit on Friday. It's going to be a packed house, which is no shock at all. But it's obviously going to be great to see the Mets back in Queens. So let's go to our player of the series predictions. There's a lot of interesting names you could pick here. And we always try to find interesting guys to pick. So we are a pitching podcast. I nailed the pitcher last time. So that means it's Corne's turn to pick the pitcher who's going to have a great series against the Toronto Blue Jays.
I liked what I saw from Griffin Canning in the first outing. I liked what I saw from Griffin Canning in his spring training. So I'm going with Griffin Canning having another strong outing, first time in his now new home ballpark against a former Met, Chris Bassett. I just think the Mets have noticed from the moment he went available how bad the Los Angeles Angels pitching guys are and how they can utilize his pitches better. And we've seen that all during spring and in his first outing against Houston. And I think he will continue having a good outing or good outings or decent outings, whatever you want to call it. So I think Griffin Canning gives us a good strong start with the Mets opportunity for a win.
I like the pick. I like the pick. I am going off the book. I went back and I checked. This person has never been picked as a hitter for the series. So we're making history here today. And he's been one of the better bats in the Mets lineup so far. I'm going with Luis Torrens to have a good series against the Toronto Blue Jays. Like I said, Torrens has been really good to start the season when the Mets uh, could. Obviously, we know how good he is defensively. The fact that he's chipping in offensively this well to start the season is a bonus. And I think he's going to keep swinging that hot stick. I think he's going to uh, pick up a pick up an extra base hit or two, drive in a run against the Toronto Blue Jays in this series. So let's go with Louis to have a big series.
Yeah, I love that pick. It's been money for us so far, just like he did last year when he needed to start. So sounds like maybe Luis Torrens is a pretty good starting catcher. Not saying that he should play above Alvarez, but I think Torrens shows that in his best interest and maybe even in the Mets' best interest, that he get maybe a little bit more starts when Alvarez returns.
Yeah, and it could obviously help out Francisco Alvarez too. You don't need to ride
True.
ride that train all that often if you feel comfortable with your backup catcher. And Torrens has certainly shown, at least to begin the season, and I guess even last year too, that um, he's very capable. Obviously, we know how good he is defensively. That's a given. But for the time being, while he's starting, if he's swinging a hot bat, you got ride him while you can. So Luis Torrens, my pick for a big series against the Toronto Blue Jays. I think that's pretty much all I got for us today. Is there anything else you need to get off your chest before we wrap this up?
No, yeah, well, enjoy the first home series. Yeah, unfortunately, I see a lot of negativity around on the social medias about certain players. Um, we are still in the first week of the majors. Even if we talk about some things that maybe aren't going really well, I think it's always good to think that it's the first week and stand behind your players. Even if you don't like him or don't feel that they're going to have a good series or are the best fit for your team. Everybody has their opinions, so do we. But the negativity when we are 3-3 after a 1-2 series in Houston coming back home, um, I think it's far too big, huge. It's way worse than it should have been. So cheer on your New York Mets. Cheer our New York Mets. It's a good ball club. I said that last week or last episode. It's a good ballpark, a good ball club, and we're gonna be fine. And right now, I think 3-3, and with what the Mets have brought on the field, I think 3-3 is actually pretty good.
Yeah, just play. You can play 500 on the road, and obviously better at home. That's a decent recipe to make the playoffs. So maybe the Mets will keep up that trend throughout the season as we'll wrap up episode number 64 of the Queen's Connection. Corne, thank you for joining us, and enjoy these next three games against the Blue Jays.
You too, buddy. Thank you.
All right. Episode number 64, The Queen's Connection, is in the books. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search The Queen's Connection. Give us a like and a follow. Also, make sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen to us, Spotify or YouTube. So thank you very much for listening, and enjoy this first home series of the 2025 season against the Toronto Blue Jays.